Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome back to another Ninja Coaching Spotlight. We're excited to have an amazing ninja with us here today from Ponte Vedra, Florida. Alice Toy is with us, and we also have her amazing coach, Jen Gamez, here today. Also joined by Matt, as always. And we're going to have some fun today. I love the direction we're going to take. We have a lot of people that reach out and they say, we want somebody that's kind of going through like normal life, like, somebody that's kind of like in the mix of things. And as I was talking with Jen and we were like, talking about Alice and her journey as going through this. And the more I learned, I was like, this is something that people have to hear because this is a journey that a lot of people go on. I know where Alice, when I was interviewing earlier, she was saying, I don't know if it's really all that special, or like, I don't know if I'm kind of unique or if this is a good thing. And I think this is so great to share because it's what so many people go through and they don't think everybody else is going through the same thing. And that's where we're going to have some fun today. So Alice, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on. You are such great energy and I'm excited to spend some time with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here and glad to share.
So awesome.
I love it. And Jen Gamez, thank you for joining us also. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Always a pleasure.
And Matt, I've already said good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's get rolling here. So I think this is great. As we were starting to kind of get rolling this, so Alice, you got introduced to Ninja back in 2020 through the book. And the interesting thing about this, in a short amount of time of reading the book and learning Ninja, you were in a different market than where you're selling at right now. Can you give us kind of a little insight to like this interesting journey and why you started in a market in 2020 and here in ending 2023, you're in a new market with a very different looking business. You want to kind of give us like a little bit of background here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the first piece of background I would give is that my husband was in the military for 26 years. So back in 2020, he's retired now, but we were, still in the middle of him being an active duty military person. So still a part of the moving part. So I got my license at the end of 2019 and then sold my first house in January of 2020. And like you said, so someone had given me a copy of the Ninja Selling book and I just like devoured it. And I just knew that this was like, that resonated with me. And I knew that's how I wanted to do business. So from the very first transaction that I did, I met my clients at Starbucks. We went through the buyer process. And I just remember them saying, like, we were so scared when we knew that we were meeting with you. And after I asked them all those questions, they felt so good. My heart was probably beating like 2 in that meeting, just because it was like the first time, first transaction, you don't know exactly everything you're doing, but having them tell me that they had the confidence gave me the confidence that I knew that I was doing the right thing. And then, like I mentioned earlier, they wrote me an entire page review after that I actually sent to Larry because I was like, hey, this is my first transaction. They wrote me an entire page review. Look at this. Ninja's awesome. So that was kind of my first experience. And I think, 2020 lended itself to being, it was my first year and I was hungry. My broker, like I said, was giving us Zillow leads. So that was a big part of my business. And obviously 2020 with the rates where they were. And also I would say probably the area that I was in, it was a fast-paced market. So we were meeting with people and closing, and I had a really successful year. So January to December, I had 25 closings and did about 6 million in volume. And that was in the panhandle of Florida, which I would say the market there, the prices are a little bit lower. So I was busy. And of course, military life calls, and it's November. Actually, I think it was October. It was October, sold our house and we moved into temporary housing. So we were in like bungalows and hotels for the next 3 months and then making our move to the other side of Florida.
So this is where I think it's so amazing because here now, right around this time, as you get settled, you're making this move, Jen Gamez comes into your life as your coach. And I can't imagine you having a better coach to guide you through, especially a military move, than Jen Gamez. Jen, while we have you here right now, can you give me a little bit of your background that literally like this type of situations, like put me in, coach, like, come on, like, let's go. I want to help.
Yeah. So I am married to a military man, retired 26 years, retired military man. So everything she was about ready to go through and the transition she had gone through, I have been through before myself. And Alice, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, she's going through all of this with 2 little kids in tow.
Oh yeah, I have kids.
Yeah. So those 2 would have been 3 and 5 at the time that she was making the transition, if I'm remembering their ages correctly at that time.
Yeah, 2 and 5, but
2 and 5. Yeah. So she's doing all this, looking, as a military mama, you're wearing many hats in addition to all the mamas out there, like when they're out there going through transition, but there's just this extra level because, there's just these demands that come from the military. And so as she was going through this, I knew it was like looking back in my previous 10 years earlier in the life that I had lived and knew exactly what she was going through and what she was facing and changing markets and all of that.
Now, Alice, I should have asked this before, but did you find Jen or did we pair you up with Jen when you came into our world?
I'm pretty sure that we just got paired up. I just remember like panicking and being like, I think I should probably do the test drive call. And yeah, I feel like there's more to the story that I should have thought more ahead of time because like, I felt like maybe like I missed the first call or something and then ended up getting Jen on the second call or something. Oh, I know what it was. Okay. Now I remember. I had signed up and I don't think anyone contacted me. Like, I think I kind of fell through the cracks just a little bit or something. So I reached back out and
that's good for everybody here. Alice, thanks for sharing that.
You can edit that out, right?
No, we're keeping that in. That's the exact thing I want to go out. It's perfect.
I apologize. Anyway, that didn't happen. Jen was the first person that called me, but I feel like it was all meant to be. You know what I mean? Like there was a reason that like, whatever happened, it happened for that purpose so that Jen could be the one to call me. So anyways.
I love it. We're not editing that out, by the way. That's staying, yeah. So with that being said, so you came from a business which was, running a lot of Zillow leads, but you had a good business. You had figured out how to make real estate work for you and your family. Mm-hmm. And now you're moving to this new area. You're in this transition. And you made the comment that literally while you were having your first call with Jen, you were like unpacking boxes. And Jen, if you want to jump in here a little bit about, what you watched during this transition time and what your guidance was, because I think a lot of times when people go to hire a coach, they think, oh, I need someone to keep me on my Ninja 9 and these basic systems and this stuff. And what we had experienced is there's so much more life going on than just how are you going to write 2 notes today? And you did a great job guiding her through this process. So I'd love to hear kind of your side of what you saw here and how you helped her.
Yeah. Well, and as we all know, like those who have gone through the Ninja installation or you've coached for a while, what you always learn is that our job is to be the step down transformer. And that means you're taking all this energy and you're making it into something useful. So one of the things we do as coaches is we're always watching for, okay, yeah, but what energy are you receiving right now? Are you able to even receive a client's energy that would be coming into you? And at that point in her transition, she, my advice to her right out of the gate is, can we not talk about business right now? Let's talk about you. How are you doing with the transition? How are the kids doing? How's your husband doing? Where are you at in the move? Have you gotten a chance to look around the base? Like you have to get your house in order first. Permission to go slow, to go quick. That was my advice to her right out of the gate. Hey, let's not even talk about business. Let's not even focus on this until you have your house in order, but make that a priority. Like this is not a 3-month unpack. Like let's get that unpacked. Let's get it in order. Let's get it done so that you can get back to business. But just that permission, as long as financially they were fine, right? We always have to be mindful of that. This is the way you make your living. But, that permission to say, okay, there will be time to focus on the business later. For now, you and your family and your kids need to be the focus. Let's make sure you guys are all settled before we're taking on anybody else's energy into your world.
And I think it's important because sometimes you'll never unpack. You'll never get settled. You just jump right into this world of, I got to make an income now. We got to make money. We got to focus over here. And I mean, you can live in boxes for a long time and all of a sudden at some point say, I've got to figure this out. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And I would just add, like, it's not even just necessarily only unboxing stuff. Like that's one piece of it. It's okay, where are my kids going to school? Who are our new pediatricians? Do we need all that stuff to get into school? And like for my daughter, who was not in like the public school system yet, she was daycare. I feel like this is common everywhere, but daycares are expensive and hard to get into and hard to find. And so it's just so much, like even just on top of, getting rid of all the boxes and going through all the junk that you wish you just would have thrown away.
And then you add that layer of making sure you have the proper IDs, the change of, the whole DEERS program in the military. There's just this whole extra level of the military life that goes into it so that when she needed to go on base, she was set and ready to go. There's just that extra level to that transition that you just got to take the time to figure it out. And that piece of it runs at government speed. So that takes long.
Yeah.
Well, and so now you're doing this transition and everything. You're connected with Jen, and you still do focus on transitioning the real estate business as well. You're moving to a new area. So like, what's the first thought that goes through your head, Alice? And what's the first thing that you and Jen started to work on with your business as you're now moving to a completely new market that you have never sold real estate in?
Yeah. So like she mentioned, like really first, it was her helping me just be okay with where I was, right? And just accepting that like, I have to get settled in here. I can't like jump in. Like I don't know a lot of people. I knew a few people, but not a lot. So kind of just like getting my mindset correct to just say like, it is okay to stop. It just was hard to transition into that. It was me kind of just being like, okay, well, what do I do next? And kind of felt like a little bit paralyzed. And then just kind of her and I talking through it, it was just do what you know how to do. And so for me, it's like finding open houses to sit, being in flow with people. Like I'm a connector and I love being around people. So, it was initially, so starting off with connecting with like the kids, like the new parents that my kids would be friends with, right? So connecting with them through school and really just like, honestly, even just like being outside, like moving in and meeting the neighbors. And obviously, we live in Florida, so people are outside a lot more in the winter and walking around and just being friendly and saying hi and being willing to be more outgoing. And I think that was kind of the beginning, was just where can I insert myself that feels natural? Like I'm not trying to start something crazy when I've just moved here.
Can we stick on that for just 1 second? Because a lot of people will say, yeah, I'm going to go out and meet people, but then like, how do I evolve that relationship? What are the things that I do? And you mentioned being outgoing, but can you tell us more about like, what did you think of? Hey, I want to ask these people questions. I want to learn about them. Did you think about how do I get contact information and move to like having other conversations outside of just kind of like seeing people through school and daycare drop-offs and things like that? How did you approach that?
So definitely just trying to get together and like being in person more so that you can, naturally gravitate to the conversations that are going to lead to me talking about what I do. But also when you meet someone new, for us just moving here, it did come up a lot. And then I'm not like usually the kind of person who on the first time I would meet someone would be like, let me get you a real estate review. I kind of like to feel it out or like just feel like there's a little bit more of a relationship before, because I don't want to give them, the realtor vibes that sometimes people get.
Yep.
Just kind of trying to hang out. Like if I can get them together and we can be together, if we're just like hanging out with the kids or we go meet somewhere, like to the jumping places that we go to. I mentioned that one of the things I did was just started texting. I met like a bunch of my neighbors. Oh, and then I ended up, so I joined a disciple group. So that was one thing with my church. That was like one of the first things I did after kind of getting settled in, was joining our disciple group where I could meet people. And then I realized like that one of the ladies in my group lived 2 blocks away. And then I started a walking group because a bunch of us had young kids. A lot of us worked from home and had flexibility. So on every Monday morning, we would get together and walk. And then we just kind of kept adding, I kept adding people. I think that's the one thing, is because like that's my job, is to add the people. And then when you do stuff like that, like everybody's talking and getting conversations in. And I even would invite people that didn't live here. So like my hairdresser started coming along with us. And then also I started going to that free networking event that I was talking about, which is just like once a month, a bunch of people get together. And then I just invite people where I can that feels natural and make an intentional, decision to follow up with them and say, hey, it was really great to meet you. And I try to really think of something. Hey, could I invite that person to come walk with us? Or, is there something that I can do to include this person to make them feel like we have some sort of friendship?
So Alice, what I love about this is a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, so really you're just telling me to be a good person? Like that's really what this is all about. And like, you're the epitome of like going like, I'm just going to be a good person to people. Like I'm going to reach out and make sure I say thank you for them joining us and the relationship and connecting with them. And what I wrote down as you started to talk about this as like, I didn't just jump in to try to, how fast can I do a real estate review? And a lot of times in a new environment, or even when somebody's embracing Ninja for the first time in their market they've been in, they get into a mindset of like, how fast can I unlock the real estate out of these people? And I always tell everybody, like, the real estate will come with the amazing relationships that you build. It's just a natural hand in hand type of thing. It works together. And you really went like, I'm going to stay out of pursuit mode, which is where a lot of people get into. And you went into full attracting mode, which makes sense why in a very short amount of time, you have a decent business in this newer marketplace that is really run through activities that you have full control over.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was so scared that first year. And I think like once I kind of got to that beginning time where I like allowed myself, and like Jen said, we had the money, like I had that great successful year coming off of, we had sold our house and of course made money like everyone did in 2020. So like I was able to accept that, but I was still like so scared that I wasn't going to have like any closings. And then I did, like, I don't know, I might have done like 3.5 million, but I was so proud of myself that I stuck to not like doing Zillow leads. I just, did what I knew I could be doing and should be doing, stuck to Ninja, I'm good at open houses. So I did them and just talked to people and it worked out. And plus 2021 was hard if you were for working with buyers. It was like a little bit more difficult if you had certain buyers trying to get under contract. So I was kind of thankful that I didn't have a ton of buyers that first half of the year.
Yeah, I just want to add here, one of the activities, I just remember these conversations, is one of the activities, and it seems so simple, but one of the things that Alice actually showed up so intentionally for was the drop off of her kids and the pickup of her kids in the morning and in the afternoon. And we literally, that was part of her business plan is, Alice, you've got to just show up, be ready to conversate, not necessarily dressed in full realtor attire, whatever that looks like, but be ready to have a conversation. Don't just do that. I'm dropping off the kids with the blinders on so I can get back home and do whatever I want to do. That is an opportunity to be consistently seen by these parents, create conversation just in that 5-minute drop-off point in the morning and that 5-minute pickup and relationships were being built there. I remember when she was like, oh my gosh, I've talked to this same dad like 4 times now. And I finally got his cell phone information because we're going to exchange with his wife and this, that. Like it was creating one relationship at a time, focus on the relationships and simply being in flow and using just the drop off of the kids. 10 minutes a day is how she was building her business at that point, or building connections at that time.
Just to explain what my drop off and pickup is like, we are walkers at our school. So like, just because of the place that we live, like we walk to school. So we're walkers. And so when you're a walker, you wait for your kid outside of the gate. And so my intention on that, like, I'm glad you reminded me that my intention was I didn't take my phone when I would go pick my son up from school. So I intentionally said, I am not taking my phone. I'm going to use this time to be able to connect with other people. Because I just knew like, and it was so small and it didn't feel, like I said, it doesn't feel like I'm doing these big things that other people would do, but I just knew that anything I could do small like that would be helpful.
And I love that you said I didn't take my phone, because what we don't realize as humans is if we have this in our hand, the first thing we're doing while we're waiting for something is we're looking.
And you'll just stare at it.
And when we talk about attraction, guess what? You just shut yourself off. When you're ingrained in the phone, nobody's going to talk to you voluntarily if you don't look accessible.
You create a different vibe too. I feel like,
Jen, what if there's a good TikTok that I'm missing?
TikToks. Feel like too, not bringing your phone is a great actual strategy to not only connect with people because it encourages you to talk to people because you have nothing else to do, but also it removes that awkward, like sometimes that you mentioned the realtor vibe before, Alice, and sometimes you're like, oh, let me get your number. And you like whip out the phone. Whereas like, I don't even have my phone. They're like, oh, okay. So you're actually kind of putting that relationship the next level on them in some ways, I'm sure, where they're like, well, let me give you my number because I don't have my phone with me. I think that's actually a really, really cool thing and probably helped create more genuine relationships than, oh, I'm here to just get people's phone numbers.
I think in our world, when we don't carry our phone or when somebody else that we're with isn't carrying a phone, I think it actually stresses other people out. Like, what do you mean you don't have a phone? Like, why would you not have a phone on you? Like, this person's kind of weird. Like, they don't even have a phone. Crazy how we've transitioned, right, in our world. Alice, I want to go back because Obviously, you knew Zillow leads worked.
For me, yes.
Yeah, it worked for you in the market that you were in before, and now you've moved to this new market, and you moved away from them. And you shared with us, you've already shared with the audience here some of these groups that you got involved in, and getting more connected with your kids' school, getting more connected. You talked about a hiking group.
We don't hike in Florida, but
You talked about your church.
Walk.
Did you say walking group? Walking group. But I love that you embraced it. What made you leave what you knew kind of worked, what you knew worked for you, and you could find business in that and not pursue that in this new area? What was the change?
so I knew they worked for me and I was really good at converting them. Like the Zillow people were calling me and they were like, your conversion rate is so good. And then, but like the whole time I was doing it, I was like, I liked being, I liked getting the compliments and everything. But I always had that sort of like, we're paying Zillow, we're giving Zillow money to get these people, like we're feeding the beast. Like I always had that, even though I wasn't paying it technically, and like my broker wasn't even taking any extra money from me, which was crazy. I just that was always in the back of my mind. And then if you've ever done a Zillow lead before, you have to pick up the phone. Like if the phone rings, you pick it up. And my husband was super supportive of that. It was my first year. I was hungry. He was super supportive. And I think he saw the success that I was having. And so it's dinner time with the kids, pick up the phone. I'm tucking them in and the phone rings. I pick it up. So just that interruption throughout your day, when I stepped away from it, I guess, and stepped back from having that. And we put a special ringtone on, like when Zillow would call, it was a special ringtone. And when I hear that ringtone, like out in the wild sometimes, I'm like, it gives it just gives me this little like flashback. And even the kids will be like, oh, that's a Zillow lead calling. And I just didn't want that. So after stepping back and then like not hearing that ringtone, because it would be a little bit stressful, there was definitely like, oh, you hear it ring and you're like I wanted to answer it because I wanted to help those people. And I think that's one of the reasons I was so good at it, because in my mind, if that person was getting me, they were lucky that they got me, because they could be getting any agent on Zillow. But
no self-confidence issues here.
No, I did a few transactions. I was like, oh, it's not hard to be awesome in this industry. So yeah, I just didn't want that anymore. I just didn't want that. Like, I have to drop everything I'm doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Honestly, I think it was easier because we were already set and we knew what we were doing. But after in the middle of a transition, I just couldn't get down. Well, 1, 2, I would have had to start paying for them myself. And that was another thing. I was like, I'm not forking over $5,000 a month for me to just be waiting for the phone to ring. And then it's going to ring when I'm in the bathroom, in the shower, trying to tuck my kids in, or on the way to school, like during the important times when I want to be with my family. I didn't want that anymore. I'm grateful for the first year that I had with them, but I didn't want it anymore.
I think they serve an incredible purpose and they work well. And I know people that build incredible businesses with them. And I think that the right time in your business career, there's a place for them for some people, not for everybody, because not everybody's going to ditch their child while they're tucking them in to be like, mommy's got to go take a Zillow lead real quick. Like, not everybody's willing to do that. But, you look at like the person who doesn't have all those moving parts and they might be living on their own and they're younger in their life. And, those can serve an incredible time to be like, yeah, I will jump and run and I don't have places that I need to be or other dependents on me. So you really were in that transition in life and going like, nope, I want to be more present in this area, which I think is a great reason.
For sure. And I had already proved to myself, because not all of my closings were from Zillow. I would say like about half of my closings that year were from Zillow, but the other half was because I was able to get clients from open houses. It was from my sphere, from people that I knew. I mean, it was hard because once I got my real estate license, I was like, oh crap, I should have been making more friends. But when you're in the military, you don't normally like make a ton of friends because you're moving. So it's that sort of like balance of like, I want to get to know a couple people. I want to have friends, but like, I know I'm leaving, so I don't want to have to say goodbye to all these people. So in my last year, I kind of was like, I guess being a little bit more open.
It was great.
Even though I knew I had to leave, but I knew I needed to be. So
I want to ask a question about the open houses here real quick, because you mentioned to me, that was one of the first things you said when I said, how did you kind of get rolling there in this new marketplace? And obviously when you're new into a market, you don't have your own listings. How did you work that in? What was your strategy around building an open house system?
So just having that bigger office, I think was helpful, like going into Berkshire Hathaway. I think, here in Jacksonville, like there was about 400 agents that were at Berkshire Hathaway. And even in my office that I was attached to, we had over 100 agents. So there was plenty of listings to go around that other agents wanted. They didn't host their own open houses. So it was me just like looking at who, and honestly, like a lot of agents were already offering that to say, hey, does anybody want to host? And just being the first person to respond to that and just using other agents' listings to pursue that.
Good for you.
Zillow trained her to respond quickly to those offerings.
Yeah, I learned a few things from Zillow.
That's amazing.
Be first or be last.
Exactly.
Well, so now let's fast forward a little bit, because like 21, you get established in this new marketplace, and now we're 2 years past that. Jen, like, what are some of the things that you've seen Alice grow with? Because, and I want to hear from your perspective as a coach, because a lot of you still had life going on, Alice. Like, you still got 2 kids. You still have, I mean, your husband's now retired, but like still waiting for him to go through that
Retirement.
Yeah. So
He actually just got a new job too. So
We're in transition again.
you're both working and all that stuff. So Jen, what did you see? What were some of the things you saw Alice like grab a hold of that she was able to accelerate through 22 and 23 to continue to grow this business while handling life as it happens as a young parent?
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing, it was watching her just kind of come into her own. Obviously, we've already seen confidence is not an issue, but that grew over time though. That truly did. Like, she just keeps seeing over and over again, just do the system works for you. You know, like, she's not afraid to identify her strengths of the system. It's not about doing it all, but it's about doing what you do well, really, really well. And so the creating relationship piece has always been just Alice's strong suit, and the being open to people, and then the desire and the heart to just teach, which sometimes that is being in a transaction with somebody, taking care of somebody and walking them through and explaining every step of the way. Like, her growth in that area, as she learned her market, as she learned all of the pivot points in this industry through the pandemic, you know, like the iBuyers, like she dove into the iBuyer program, and she confidently, you know, would assist a seller with the iBuyer. Like, she just, whatever was in front of her, she dove in, she learned. And because she loves to learn, she loves to teach. And so she just genuinely grew her business as a result of just being who she was and not trying to be something she wasn't. And obviously we would have a lot of conversations about, hey, here's an opportunity. Is this something I should be doing? And we talk through it. How is that genuine to you? Right? Or what is it that you want the result to be? And she would take the time and not just have a knee-jerk reaction to something in front of her, but really think about, is that part of who she is and what she wants in her business going forward?
I love it. Now, we keep mentioning this confidence thing too, right? And clearly not an issue, but are there things, Alice, that you do to like reinforce? Because I think this is actually a very, very important point, because having confidence allows you to go be who you truly are, right? So are there certain things that you have done to help grow that confidence? We talk about affirmations a lot in Ninja. It's a big part of, you know, the mindset part when you're learning that in an installation. I'm sure you and Jen have worked on some of that. So are there practices like that you still use and have been using to keep that confidence level up?
yeah. So, I mean, confidence has been, I've always naturally been able to step into things and just go for it and have like the personality to be able to just roll with it. And I think exude like I might have like confidence, even though I might be a little bit scared on the inside.
Like a duck on a pond,
but
palm on the top, but those legs are going.
I do just go for it. I tell you, I do try to just go for things. And I kind of have always been that way and not been scared to do things. But this year, and I do affirmations every morning. I also, I mean, to be honest, Matt, one of the things that changed my life was that on the Ninja Selling Facebook page, you posted the Lewis Howes School of Greatness podcast. And I started listening to that. And I just can't tell you, like, that was like a little ripple that started me just reading new things. And I think like the more you read and the more you learn and you just start to kind of sit with yourself or just examine like your mindset and sort of what makes you you and like being yourself. This year, oh gosh, there's so many things that have happened. I mean, doing this move, I also changed brokerages this year, which was like a huge thing for me. It was not easy. And just sort of kind of going through some of the growing pains and going through what I've been through. So really just like living my daily life. And I think being able to have Jen to talk with these things about, these experiences are what is helping grow my confidence, because I'm like, okay, that hard thing, I just did that and I got through it. And I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to be even better.
And I want to say, like, literally, she just had her last coaching call 2 days ago. And it's funny that she said that the changing of brokerages was hard, because she just said on Wednesday, it wasn't so bad. So, like literally.
This is what I wrote down a second ago, which I think a gift that you have, Alice, but I also think it's the environment that you've been in. I think being a military spouse, you always have to be open to experiencing change. And you know change is coming. You know it's going to happen. We're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to figure out a new environment here, whether it's a different marketplace, whether it's a different type of market completely as the market shifts. Jen, as you were saying this, she jumped into the iBuyers and figuring that out. You know, that was a change that a lot of people ran for the hills and said, this is going to change everything. And what are we going to do? Where the ones that said, well, let's just figure it out, they learned how to thrive with it. And I think that part of that might be the person that is attracted into the military lifestyle or that environment, because not everybody can do that. So you might have that gift already, but it might even be reinforced with the life that you've lived and that leads you to where you are today.
Yeah.
That's what keeps coming out for me as I've been listening to you talk today.
Can I address the confidence thing? Like, I want nobody walking away from this confusing confidence with cockiness, because Alice is the least cocky person that I know. Where her confidence comes from is just her genuine heart to take care of people. And that knowledge of, if I don't help them, if I don't step up and say, hey, choose me, then they may not be taken care of. No offense to any other realtor out there, but she knows her heart and she knows her care for people. And that when somebody is in front of her, that she will do everything she can to take the best care of that person who's in front of them and explore every little thing. And if she doesn't know it, go learn it. And that's where the confidence comes from, is that she knows she has a heart of caring for people. And she shows up in her business like that every day. And so that's where all of that comes from.
I love it.
That's awesome. Outrageously important too, by the way, and a very good distinction, Jen, because two totally different things. And cockiness usually goes to the arrogant side versus the confident side, because you actually know that you can provide value to people, which I think is fantastic. So you'd mentioned 3.5 million the first year, and I would just want to share a few numbers, if that's okay, Alice. So now, first year you said you did about 3.5, which, by the way, let's acknowledge that that's pretty good, right? I mean, a lot of people talk about, oh, we got to have these major, huge numbers, but you think about the earnings that come from that in a year of transition. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So now, what did 22 and 23 look like for you?
22, I think, was like 5 million. And then this year, I'm not focusing really on my volume, because I said this earlier, but what I'm recognizing now is that I'm actually doing one thing that I really want to do, which is I'm doing less, but making more. So I'm doing a little bit less in transaction numbers, less in volume, but I actually have a higher GCI, which obviously that's a ninja goal for sure. It's right, we want to make more by, but still having the life we live. And so that's kind of where my focus is now, is digging in that way and making sure I'm bringing the value to people that I can to be able to justify that, which is great timing.
I love you say that, because so many people focus on, oh, I got to hit these. And Garrett, we've talked about this how many times on podcasts, when it's really what it comes down is how much you making, right? Mm-hmm. From a financial standpoint, it's the net. It's not the volume, the number of transactions. And I think you pair this, Alice, with your ability and desire to serve at a high level, you probably get to pack even more service into a client with that, higher rate, which is, I think, incredible. So you're laying and leaning into this just high service, which is fantastic. So congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, and Alice, the reason I love that you shared it that way is that, so often we get caught up in what does success look like? And a lot of people will jump in and they'll say, well, it's obviously making more money, right? You just got to make more money. And if you want to be successful the next year, you got to make more money than you did the year before. And then everybody will give you a plaque and they'll put you on their shoulders and they'll be like, look at how successful she is. And some of the people that have chased down some of those goals are miserable. And I'm not saying everybody is, but some people really truly ruin themselves trying to be that next level. And you can get there. Every one of you can get there and you can do it in the right way. And I love that you're in a position and you're in a place of saying, okay, well, what does success look like for me? And it is making, maybe it's the same amount of money in less time, working less, spending more time with the people that I love. And I think it's good to know kind of what your enough is. And I don't think you're at your enough, like where I'm done. I think what I'm hearing from you is there's growth here, but you understand all the other moving parts of your world that you're not willing to sacrifice. And you're going to be able to be successful around all aspects of it. And that goes back to the confidence level instead of the scarcity level. When people are in the scarcity mode, sacrifice all this stuff and they go and they just trying to make things work. And it's really the best mindset to be in. So I really want to compliment you on how you're approaching life and business. It's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. It's easy to get stuck, I think, like, especially when people are pushing you to set a goal and write your numbers down for the year. And it is good to have them. Like, you have to know how you're going to do stuff. But I think, like, for me, sometimes when I would have to write that number down and feel like if I don't do it, I'm a failure. And I did write it down. I wrote a huge goal down for this year and I didn't meet it. And and I don't actually, now I don't care. Because I think what I realized, and what's in talking to Jen, even just the other day, is and I told her, I just feel like I've figured out who I really want to be in this business and how I want to do it. And realizing that I don't have to do everything the way it says I'm supposed to do it. And I don't necessarily need this high volume goal to drive me. And I almost feel like sometimes it would almost go the opposite direction because I subconsciously, I knew I didn't like having that limit on it's not even a limit really, but it is, but you're just putting something so concrete. And I don't like concrete stuff like that, where it says that's because, great if I meet it. Well, what if I go over? I just want to do as much as I can. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I think the important thing for Alice is, we're in an industry where, who's defining your why, right? Are you allowing the industry to say this is what success is, or are you really doing the work and diving in and taking the time to reflect and to analyze what is success for you? As a mom, Alice also loves going home to her family who lives in Pennsylvania. So that's a trip. And that's at least once a quarter. She loves to have time that she goes or when the family comes to her. She's a huge family person. And so there's a lot of time that isn't right there in Florida. And then again, a year of transition for her husband. She has been able to be present and be a part of her life, but still make this incredible income. And it's just that always slowing down and reassessing. Wait a second, before you jump in and you beat yourself up over this real estate number, what's the entire life you're trying to live? And are you showing up in that way? And she's always really good at reflecting on, yeah, you know what? In this moment when I'm thinking about business, I shouldn't be so hard on myself because look at all these things, these great things that are happening. And so she's really good at being reflective that way.
Thanks to the help of the person just got done talking.
So I want to emphasize this a little bit because before we started recording, and I think as we kind of wrap up our time together, but before we started recording, I had made the comment to Alice and I said, tell me about Jen real quick and her relationship to you. And the word you used was she's like the perfect puzzle piece. We fit perfectly together. And as we started talking about it, there's little handheld hearts going up on the screen and things like that. And as I work with all of our coaches and I get a chance to talk to Jen regularly, and Jen will tell me about clients that she just loves. And all the coaches do. They're like, oh my gosh, I literally love this client that I'm working with.
All of them.
And then it's fun to talk to all of you out there and hear from you where you're like, oh my gosh, let me tell you what my coach means to me. And I've always had that feeling of coaching is not just having a coach. Anybody out there who's in coaching and you're just like, yeah, that's my coach. That's who was assigned to me. That's who I got. there's an element in finding the right coach. And I'm going to just kind of want to open this up a little bit. So I want to hear from both sides. The coaching relationship that you have, because not everybody throws little heart symbols up around about their coaches all the time. Alice, just if you want to share with the ninjas that are out there what Jen has been to you since you've gotten into having her as your coach, and then I'd love to hear the vice versa.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay. So for me, I think like when I called, it was because I was like in such a place of just like, I just don't know what to do with myself. Like I really, like I knew that I was strong and I could do this because I've done moves before, but it was just so different for me and I knew I needed it. And when we talked the first time, it was just, well, one, it was like we were meant to be. So there were so many things for her and I that aligned, like the military connection, having a blended family where you have like divorces and stepkids, having a husband that went through a retirement and did the retirement and then got a new job. So there was just so much of that, that obviously like when you make that connection, it makes you feel better. Like you know that you're connecting with that person and you have a connection, but then just not even realizing how much I was going to need to lean on her through what I was about to go through, because I didn't know that retiring after 26 years in the military, I did not know what that was actually like. And it actually is pretty stressful for both sides. You know, for him, like there was just so much that I didn't even think about. Like that wasn't even on my radar to think like, oh, what's he feeling? And she had all of that stuff. She'd already been through all of that to be able to help me, because that was such a big part of me. And I think I said earlier, I think some people feel like if they get a coach, it's like a magic button. Like when I talk to people that ask me about like what it's like having a coach and should they get one? And I think they think like, oh, if I get a coach, I'll be better and I'll do more business. But like for me, the personal side of things that she was able to help me through, I would say was just such a big piece of it. Not like her saying, hey, write your notes or do your real estate reviews or turn in your Monday morning agenda, but just really helping me understand and get through the things like on my family side and just personal side of things was just so important to us. And I don't know what it would have been like to have a different coach. I'm glad I don't know.
Separating it from what a true coach is to what an accountability partner is. I've talked to Larry about this many times, and I've said, the word coaching in the real estate industry has been very broken over the years, where the word coach symbolizes or it goes along the same lines of having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
And a true coach is, you got a little bit of accountability in there, but a lot of it is true coaching. It's true. What are all your moving parts? What's happening behind the scenes that's allowing you to show up or not show up? And it helps having somebody that has that background. So Jen, I want to kick it over to you, because you've said some nice things about Alice over the years and the time that I've talked to you, and things you want to share about people you're coaching. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like to coach Alice.
You mentioned accountability partner. And honestly, I just want to add to that piece for a second, and then I'll get to Alice, of course. But I think that the accountability does always come back to, are you being accountable to yourself and what your true goals are? Are we never crossing it? And that's where the accountability comes in, is that, and I love the relationship with Alice, because I truly feel like, so for me, Alice is 7 a.m. in the morning, right? And so she's an hour ahead. So it's 8 a.m. for her. And I love that when I see her on my calendar, I'm like, yay, even though it's 7 a.m., right? Like that. I'm like, yes, let's go talk. I love that we have this relationship of that I can literally, speak the truth in love and just be there with her, alongside her, and that she is coachable. Like having that relationship that we truly can, that there is no guards up. And part of that is there just happens to be so many similarities, right? Like I'm just 20 years ahead of what she's going through now, right? I don't know that I'm that much older than her, but I'm close. so that it just is so special when you have people who, wow, this was me 10 years ago, 12 years ago, however many years ago it was. And just to see the growth and the confidence and holistically, not just real estate, like that is so much more special to me, that if I could walk alongside her and help her get through her husband retiring in military in a way that I didn't have, that everything I've gone through in my past was for a reason. And it's so that I can show up as a coach today for a person like Alice. that is so special to me. And to watch her success, not just in real estate, but as a mom and as a wife and as just, a woman of faith, how she shows up in her world. It's just so special to know that I'm just this tiny little puzzle piece in her world. I just love that.
I love it. And it's interesting, Jen, as you say that, like, you guys just happen to have some stars aligned of the things that you've been through to be able to help her. And I find, like, I look at my coaching relationships, and I have a lot of people that have young kids that I coach. And same thing. It's like, I've been there. I've walked through building a business and working a business and having the movement of children and all the life and all the soccer games and all the stuff. And being able to have those things to go back to and say, look, I've been there and I know it. And I know all your moving parts compared to somebody who's never been there before is a huge gift to be able to offer. And you are the mom as well as this extra layer. And I think that's one of the things that's made you guys connect so well is you just had this wisdom of life to be able to share also, as well as being a great real estate coach. So thank you. Matt, did we miss anything, man?
Man, this is so good. I just want to acknowledge both you, Alice, and you, Jen, for just showing up like in the pure versions of yourselves in your professions. Jen, you as a coach, Alice, you as a realtor in this case, because the industry is better for it. All the people who are buying and selling homes through you are experiencing something that unfortunately other people probably don't get to experience. Well, other people who work with ninjas are probably experiencing it, but we know the vast majority of people out there aren't that. So I just want to thank you guys for showing up in that and being of service. And you both obviously have the incredible background of being of service. So I also want to thank you both for your service and your husbands for their service to this nation. And carrying it forward into your next professions is just so awesome. So appreciate you guys sharing that with us and everybody listening, because it's a good thing to hear.
Thank you.
So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, to put a bow on this, if anybody wants to learn more about Ninja Coaching, find a coach. If you want to find Jen, you can go to ninjacoaching.com. You can find us there. You can go to ninjaselling.com. And if anybody wants to find Alice Toy, Ponte Vedra, Florida, right?
I told you just to say Jacksonville.
No, I'm not going to do it. I told you.
Ponte Vedra. Ponte Vedra.
Ponte Vedra. I was so excited that I had it right the second time. I was like, I'm going to just kill this. We're going to nail it. We're going to wrap this episode
Your confidence was high. We'll give you that.
Ponte Vedra. I'm not going to do it. I don't know why. Don't even know why I can't do it.
I'm Alice Toy. My office is in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. So that's where you can find me. What else do you want? Compass.
Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for the outro, Alice. I needed all the help I can get. And I appreciate all of you. And thanks for making this happen today. Thank you for your time. And we'll be back with another Ninja Spotlight in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, we will. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.